then about the plant kingdom. So I hope you're clear with these 3 chapters. And today we are going to start the new chapter, that is the morphology of flowering plants. So first, what do we mean by flowering plants? So that's what we saw yesterday, that they are angiosperms. So the main flowering plants. So what are the characteristic features of the flowering plants? They have the flowers as the reproductive structure, and we saw in detail about how the fertilization is happening in angiosperms or the flowering plants. So in this chapter about the morphology, what do you mean by morphology? Morphology of the flowering plants. So morphology in the sense it is the external structures. So what do you mean by the external structure or external form of the organism? So in this chapter, we are going to focus in the morphology of flowering plants. That is about the root, stem, leaves, and flowers, about the structures. And if you take the root, what are the different types of roots that exist, and the stem, and what are the modifications in the stem, and about the leaves, about the structure of the leaves, venation, and then about the flowers and fruit and seed. So about the different external forms of the flowering plant. And also it'll focus on that is a floral formula, how to write the floral formula, taxonomy of how to write the different worlds. That is, we saw that in the flowers, there are so many worlds like calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium, and about writing the floral diagram. So we'll see in detail in this chapter. It is morphology of flowering plants. So today we'll see in detail about the root. So first, what is the morphology? Morphology is nothing but it is the study of external forms of organisms. So we are going to focus on the morphology of flowering plant. So what is a flowering plant? So you're all seeing in every day around you, like so many different types of flowers and different types of fruits. And there are so many types of plants that exist around us. So if you take a plant, flowering plant, so this is an example for a typical flowering plant, that it has the root system and the shoot system. So which is under the soil. So this is the root system and shoot system. And what are the different structures that are present in the shoot system? So flower, we know it is a reproductive part, and then apical bud, node, that is the point of attachment of the leaf to the stem. It's the node, and the distance between the two nodes is the internode. And then shoot, blade. What do you mean by blade? It is the widest part in the leaf which carries out the photosynthesis. And then petiole, that is the point of attachment of leaf to the stem. So this is the stem. So these are the general features that we are seeing in a plant. So actually, you know all these structures, right? So we are going to study in detail about the types of roots, and about the stem, and about the leaf. So what are the different types of leaves, and about the venation that are present in the leaf, and then about the flower, about the characteristics of the different types of flowers, and then fruit and seed. So these are the main morphological features in a flowering plant. So if you take an angiosperm, there is a flowering plant. They are characterized by the presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. So we know that angiosperms are the advanced group of plants, and they form the largest group, and they are characterized by the presence of true roots, stem, leaves, flowers, and fruits. So main parts of the flowering plants are root system, which are the underground parts, that is the parts under the soil, and shoot system above the ground. So first, today we'll see in detail about the different types of roots that are present under the soil. So how the root is formed? So it is the underground part that is formed from radicle of embryo. So what do you mean by radicle? So during fertilization, we know that there occurs in formation of zygote, and that zygote develops into embryo. So and this embryo, then it grows into a new plant. So if you see the embryo, it contains the radicle and plumule. So another part that is called the plumule. So this radicle, it grows into a root, that it grows downwards and forms a root. But the plumule, which is present inside the embryo, it grows into the shoot. So there are two parts, plumule and the radicle. So the radicle grows into a root. So it is the underground part formed from radicle of embryo. So there are different types of roots. First one is the taproot system, and second one is the fibrous root system, and third one is the adventitious root system. So you all know that you are studying from smaller classes about the root and the stem. So what is the main function of the root? That it helps in the absorption of nutrients. So without the root, the plant cannot grow properly, because it is the main thing which is involved in the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil. So the plant obtains its nutrients only through roots. So there are different types of root systems. For example, if you take different types of plant, angiospermic plant, dicot and monocot, even the root system differs. If you take the dicots, that it has the taproot system. But if you take the monocots, it is fibrous root system. So what is the main function of the root? Other than absorption, it also has other functions. So we'll see about, and if you take the root, it is positively geotrophic. So what do you mean by this? Positively geotrophic. That is, it grows towards the soil, under the soil. And also it is positively hydrotrophic. That is, it absorbs the water. So it is attracted towards water. It helps in the absorption of water and nutrients. So we'll see in detail about the different types of roots. So first one is the taproot system. So what do you mean by taproot system? It consists of primary root. That is, there will be a primary root and its branches. So this is the root and this is the primary root. So it is formed directly from the radicle. So here, if inside the embryo, there will be a radicle and plumule. And in the case of taproot, it is formed directly from the radicle of the embryo. So it consists of the primary root. So this is the primary root, the center part. This is the primary root, and from the primary root, there arises and lateral roots. So these are the lateral roots that arise from the primary root. So lateral roots such as secondary roots and tertiary roots. So this type of root system is particularly present in dicotyledons. So they show taproot system. And primary root is elongated from radicle. That's what we saw. So this is the main type of root system that is formed from radicle. So inside the embryo, we have radicle and plumule, and from the radicle, root system arises, and from the plumule, it grows into a shoot. So if the root is formed directly from the radicle, then that is a primary root, that it is a taproot system. So example is the mustard plant. So this is the taproot system. So primary root and lateral roots. So then we'll see in detail about the different regions, about the zone of elongation and meristematic zone. So taproot system, actually this taproot can be modified for other purposes like food storage and all. So we'll see about the different types of modifications that are happening in the taproot. So the first one is the fusiform roots or spindle roots. So this type of root, actually it will be thicker in the middle. So depending upon how the root is present, it is thicker in the middle and tapering in both ends. in both the ends. So for example, this will be like tapering at the end, and in the middle it will be little broader, and again tapering. And here there will be. So the example for this fusiform roots or spindle roots is, example is radish, Aphanus sativus. So in this type of roots, it will be thicker in the middle and tapering in both ends. So here they are the modified root forms, and they are used as a storage form of food. Example radish, and the next type is conical roots. So here the example is carrot. That is also a modified form of a root. In the case of conical roots, it will be thicker at the upper side. Upper side, and it will be tapering at lower side. So thicker at the upper side, and it will be tapering at the lower side. So example is carrot. And the third form of root or napiform roots. So here it will be swollen and spherical at the upper end. Upper end will be swollen and tapering at the lower end. So here the example is, you all know which one will be swollen and spherical at the top, and tapering at the lower end will be beetroot, turnip, vulgaris, and turnip. So swollen at the top, and it will be tapered at the end. So this is the napiform, this is conical, fusiform. And there are two other forms. One is the tuberous roots. So here they do not have a regular shape. There are tuberous roots. And the example is mirabilis. It is an example for tuberous root. They do not have a regular shape, and it became swollen. Actually, the root will be swollen and fleshy, but there won't be any proper shape. And the fifth form is nodulated roots. And this also you would have heard of it, that the presence of nodules in the roots. And example is rhizobium. That is in the roots. There will be nodules. And this particularly present in the plants of leguminaceae. This leguminous plants like pea. So there are different types of modifications that are happening in the root system. That is apart from the absorption have the nutrients. The roots also serve other purposes like the storage form of food. So these are all the examples for the storage form of food, particularly the taproot, modifications of the taproot. The first one is fusiform roots, which is also called spindle roots. So depending upon how the shape of the roots are, or how the shape of that storage form of the root is, they are classified into different types. So here they are thicker in the middle and tapering in both ends. Example, radish. And in the case of conical roots, they are thicker at the upper end, but tapering at the lower end. Example, carrot. And napiform roots are swollen and spherical at the upper end and tapering at the lower end. Example, beetroot and turnip. And in the case of tuberous roots, they do not have a regular shape, but the roots are fleshy and swollen. Example, mirabilis. And in the case of nodulated root, example as rhizobium, that is in the roots, there will be presence of nodules. And these nodules are actually present in the plants of leguminous plants, and these are helpful in nitrogen fixation. These nodules are helpful in nitrogen fixation. So these are the different modified forms of the taproot. So it's clear, right? Then we'll see about the other types of root system, that is fibrous roots and the adventitious roots. So if you take the fibrous root, these are particularly present in monocots. So in monocotyledons, the primary root is short-lived. So if you take the monocot, that primary root is the one that is actually, that will develop first. From in the embryo, there will be radicle, and the radicle, it develops into the root. So the first formed root is the primary root. The primary root is short-lived and is replaced by large number of roots in the case of monocotyledons. So the roots will be like this. There won't be a primary. We saw in the case of taproot system, there is a straight, elongated, that single thick root. But here the roots will not be like that. But here they are replaced by large number of roots. And these roots originate from the base of the stem to form a fibrous root system. So there it is originating mainly from the radicle. Here they originate from base of the stem to form a fibrous root system. Example is wheat. So wheat shows fibrous root system, and this type of root system exists in monocots. Next is the adventitious root. So how it differs from other types. Here the roots that arise from parts other than the radicle. So we saw in taproot system, it arises from the radicle. So here there are many other types of root that arise from parts other than radicle. So example, grass, monstera, and banyan tree. So if you see the banyan tree, you would have seen large number of hanging roots. So these are all the modified roots of they are modified adventitious roots. So roots, we saw that apart from the absorption of nutrients, they have the other roles. If you take the banyan trees, what is the role of these roots? They give support. So there are different other functions also. And here, if you see these roots, they are not arising from the radicle. So actually stem, they have the leaves, and some leaves also will have roots. So if the root arises from parts other than the radicle, they are called the adventitious root system. So then we'll see about the different modifications or the different roots that arise from the adventitious roots, or the modified form of the adventitious roots. So the first one is fasciculated roots. So these roots, actually they occur in clusters. And they are swollen. So here the examples for the fasciculated roots are asparagus, and dahlia. Then second type of root is beaded or moniliform roots. So from the name itself, we can guess that is, it will be swollen in some places like a bead, beaded. So it will swirls up like a bead at different places after a regular intervals. That is, some places will be swollen at regular intervals. A regular interval. So here the examples are grapes, then bitter gourd, that is nothing more, that is nothing bitter gourd. So these are the example for beaded or moniliform roots, where it will be swollen and the roots are swollen at different places after a regular interval. But in the case of fasciculated roots, they occur in clusters and they are swollen throughout. Example, asparagus and dahlia. The third form of root, that is called the tuberous roots. Here it is tuberous adventitious roots. First, we saw about the tuberous taproot. So here it is adventitious root. So here also the food is stored in these roots and they become swollen and irregular. There also we saw that in the case of tuberous taproot, the shape will be irregular. So here also it becomes swollen and irregular in shape. Example is sweet potato here. Pomia paticus. That is the scientific name for sweet potato. So here you have to be specific. For example, if they ask, a sweet potato is an example for what type of root, whether it is an tuberous taproot or a tuberous adventitious root. So we have to be specific that sweet potato is an example for tuberous adventitious roots and not for taproot. And then the fourth type is tilt root or brace root. Here the main feature is they arise from the lower node. From the lower node. They arise from the lower node in the stem and then they enter into the soil. So the examples are maize, sugarcane. So the main purpose of the stilt root is also, they are called the supporting roots. So they help in the supporting or the stability, they give stability to the plant, stilt root. Then next is the prop root. Prop roots are also called pillar roots. So, you know, from the name itself, we can guess what is an example for the pillar root. It is a banyan tree. Ficus bengalensis. So here they arises from the branches of the plant, actually from the tree branch. Usually we saw that the roots, they arise, that is they will be growing downwards and they arise from the radicals. So here from where the roots are rising, from the branches of the tree, and then they are growing downwards towards the soil. And these type of roots, they are also for support. They are supporting roots. So here they are, these prop roots are They are large roots, but this tilt root or brace root, they also give support to the plant, but they are shorter. So these are supporting roots, prop roots, tilt roots. And then the sixth type is climbing roots. So here they arise from nodes. So if you see all these type of roots, the main difference is the point from where they originate. Like if you see the taproot system, they originate only from the radicals. Here, if you see each, and for example, if you see in the banyan tree, the roots originate from the branch of the tree. Here in the climbing roots, they arise from nodes and they help in climbing here. So if you see the example here, it's a money plant, climbing roots. Plant. It is also called pothos. Then beetle. And then black pepper. These are all examples for climbing roots. Then the next type is foliar roots, or also called epiphyllous. Foliar roots or epiphyllous roots. So from the term itself, we can know epiphyllous. Phyllis, it means leaf. So they arise from leaf. So example is bryophyllum. And begonia. They are examples for foliar roots or epiphyllous roots. And then sucking roots. So this roots we saw already in the case of insectivorous plants or carnivorous plants. Sucking roots and hostorial roots or parasitic roots. So these are the different names. So here what will happen? The roots will enter into the host plant to absorb the nutrients from the host. So here the examples are cascata that already we saw, right, in the case of these parasitic plants. So cascata, viscum are all examples for the sucking roots or hostorial roots or parasitic roots. So here these roots actually they enter the host plants to absorb the nutrients. So they form a structure that is called the hostoria. And then annulated roots. Here the swelling occurs in a series of rings. The swelling occurs in a series of rings on the roots. Example is ipecac. So these are the different modified forms of the roots, modified form of the adventitious roots. So first one is fasciculated roots. So what are fasciculated roots? They occur in clusters and they are swollen. So these roots examples are asparagus and dahlia. And in the case of beaded or moniliform roots, they are swollen at different places after a regular intervals. So swelling will be in the, so if you see the root, it will be first swollen, then normal root, then a part will be swollen, like that it will be the root. So they are swollen at regular intervals. Example, grapes and bitter gourd. Then in the case of tuberous adventitious root, swollen and they are irregular in shape. Example is sweet potato. And in the stilt root or brace root, they arise from lower node and then it enters into the soil. Example, maize and sugarcane. And then the prop roots or pillar roots. And example is banyan. They support the plant. Banyan tree, ficus, bengalensis, and then climbing roots, they arise from nodes, example money plant, and then betel leaf are all examples for climbing roots, and then foliar roots or epiphyllous roots. They arise from the leaves. So it is called foliar root or epiphyllous roots. Example, Bryophyllum, begonia are all examples for this foliar roots. And then sucking roots or hostorial roots or parasitic roots, example, Cascata and Viscum. And then annulated roots. Swelling, it occurs in the form of series of rings on the roots. Example is the peacock. So these are all the modified form. So it comes under adventitious roots. So first modification, that is food storage, we saw the modifications of the taproot system. So these are the modifications of the adventitious roots. So now we'll see in detail about the different regions of the root. So if you take the structure of the root, there are different regions like root cap. So this is the root cap is the tip area. This is the root cap, and above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. Then there occurs a region of elongation. So the length of the root is determined by this region, that is region of elongation, then root hairs, and region of maturation. So these are the different regions of the root. So first is the root cap. So it is the covering at the apex of the root. So the tip is the root cap. So it protects the tender apex of the root. Actually, this area will be very tender and it can be easily tear off. So it is protected by the root cap, which acts as a covering. And then region of meristematic activity. So what do you mean by this meristematic activity? So here only the cell division is taking place. That is the multiplication of the cells seen above the root cap. Here the cells are very small, thin walled, and with dense protoplasm will be present. And they divide repeatedly. That is the rapid cell division takes place here. Region of meristematic activity. So it is above the root cap. Then region of elongation. So the region just above the meristematic activity. So this is the region of meristematic activity, and just above it is the region of elongation. So here the cell undergo rapid elongation and enlargement. So the growth of the root is determined by the proportion of this region of elongation. So it helps in growth of the root in length. So the length of the root, if the length of the root is very long, means the region of elongation will be larger. So it helps in the growth of the root in length. Then region of maturation. The region proximal to elongation zone, that is near to the elongation, is the region of maturation. And here the cells differentiate and mature. So this is the region of maturation. Then root hairs. So what are root hairs? So they are the fine, delicate, thread-like structures. So these are the thread-like structures that are present. So they are formed from epidermal cells in region behind the region of elongation. So here the root hairs, what is the main role of root hairs? So if it is a single structure, means there will be only less absorption of water. So the presence of more number of root hairs, actually it helps in the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. So main purpose is the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. So these are the different regions, that is the root cap, region of meristematic activity, region of elongation, then region of maturation, and here they have the root hair. So this root hair is particularly responsible for the absorption of water and minerals. So already we saw some of the modifications of the root. So if you take some plants, the roots are modified to perform functions other than, so the main function is other than absorption and conduction. So we already saw some examples. For example, swollen roots for food storage. We saw. Then prop roots or the pillar roots that is present in banyan tree. Then stilt roots we saw in maize and sugarcane. And there are another set of roots that are called nematophores. So what are nematophores? So we'll see what they are. Then if you see the modification, for example, tap roots of carrot and turnips. So here you have to be clear because they may ask what type of root is the carrot. So modified tap root. And then in the case of adventitious roots is sweet potato. Sweet potato is nothing but it is a modified adventitious roots. But carrot and turnips are modified tap roots. But both the roots, their main function is food storage here. So for food storage, the swollen roots or tap roots of carrot and turnips and adventitious roots of sweet potato. And then in prop roots, the hanging structures that support banyan tree. So here also they are the adventitious roots. Adventitious roots. Then stilt roots, they are also a type of adventitious roots. Yes. Roots. So here the supporting roots coming out of the lower nodes of the stem. Example, maize and sugarcane. And then nematophores. So there are some roots that come out of the ground. So here all these roots we saw mostly under the ground. So here there are some roots coming out of the ground and grow vertically upwards to get oxygen for respiration. So these are the type of the nematophores. That is, they come out from the ground to get oxygen. Example, the rhizophora growing in swampy areas. So for getting the oxygen, the roots are coming out. So these are the nematophores. So if you see the functions of the root, the main functions are the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. And they provide anchorage to the plant parts. So they help in the anchoring or the stability to the plant and storage of reserve food material. They help in the storage of reserve food material. That's what we saw till now, that is food storage. Example, carrot, then beetroot, radish, everything. They are the examples for the food storage. And they also help in the synthesis of some plant growth regulators. So these are the main functions of root. Okay, so are you clear with that till now? So under the root, we saw three types of roots: tap root, fibrous root, and adventitious roots. And there are some modifications of the different types of root system, particularly for food storage and also for several other purposes like giving support to the plant. And there are some roots like nematophores which help in respiration, that is to get oxygen. So there are different modified forms of taproot and also adventitious roots. So next we'll see some questions. Roots developing from plant parts other than radicle are. So other than radicle, A, epiphyllous, epicallus, adventitious, and fibrous. So what is the correct answer? Yes, option C, good. Option C. It is adventitious roots other than radicle. Primary roots and its branches constitute adventitious root system, taproot system, fibrous roots, and seminal roots. Yes, good option B, taproot system. So primary root is the taproot. It's not adventitious or the fibrous or the seminal roots. The roots form from prolongation of radicle, that is the elongation of radicals. So this is also another way of the same question, whether it is a primary root, secondary root, tertiary root, or a seminal root. Yes, option A. Okay, good. So radicle first develop into a primary root or a taproot. Nematophores are useful in either respiration, transpiration, guttation, and protein synthesis. Yes, option A. So I hope you are clear with the concept, right? Nematophores are useful in respiration. Root has developed from region of maturation, zone of elongation, meristematic region, and region of mature cells. So where the more number of root hairs will be present in the region of maturation. Yes, 5, option E. Region of maturation is the correct option. Good. Region of maturation. So first is the region of maturation, then elongation, then meristematic region. So I hope you're clear with the order. No, you have to be clear with the order, in which order it is present. That is from the base to the root tip. In what order all these zones are present, you have to be clear with that. So this is one example for that question. Region of root from base to root tip are either the maturation zone will be present first, and then cell division zone, elongation zone. Then maturation zone, elongation zone, cell division zone. Then cell division zone, elongation zone, maturation zone. Here elongation zone, cell division zone, then maturation zone. So what will be the correct answer for this? And also you see from where they asked, from base to root tip. So before answering, you read the question properly, then answer. For question, yeah, it is option B, correct. So from the base, first is the maturation zone, then elongation zone, then cell division zone. So B is the correct option. Stilt roots are reported from stilt roots, either in maize, radish, mango, ginger, and bryophyllum. Yes, it is option A. Good. So you be clear with the examples also. So stilt roots are they also called supporting roots, and they are present in maize and sugarcane. And also be clear with some of the important roots like prop roots. You will be clear, and also other type of roots like foliar roots, bryophyllum, that is some of the leaves will have roots. So these type of main type of roots, you be clear with the examples also, because questions may come in the type of roots and examples. So prop or pillar roots in banyan tree are what type of roots? Whether they are fasciculated roots, tap roots, adventitious roots, and secondary roots. Yes, option C is correct. Okay, we saw the different types of roots, right? Fasciculated roots, they are the modified roots. What are fasciculated roots? They are the modified adventitious roots. They will be swollen throughout. Asparagus and then dahlia all comes under fasciculated roots. And we know tap roots, particularly the tap roots, the roots will be under the soil, that is, it arises from the radicle, and here the lateral roots will arise, that is a taproot. But here what they asked prop or pillar roots. Pillar roots are nothing but from the branches. So if this is a tree branch, if you see the banyan tree, how it will be, they are hanging from the branches. So they asked prop or pillar roots in banyan tree are. So this is not originating from the radicle, but it is originating from the branches of the tree. So here it is a type of an adventitious roots. Are you clear now? So they are not taproot. So I mean, are you clear? Yeah, so these are adventitious roots. So eighth, the answer is C. So you have to see the different type of root that is given. So adventitious roots and secondary roots, you know, from the primary roots in the taproot that arises secondary roots, and then tertiary roots. Okay. The next question. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of elongation, maturation, meristematic activity, then root has. Yes, option C is the correct answer. That is, above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. Okay, so we'll see a few more questions. For example, a large globular root that tapers sharply at the lower end is called, whether it is a fusiform or napiform, conical or tuberous. The question is the large globular root that tapers sharply at the lower end. Yes, napiform. Napiform is the correct answer. So B is the correct option, that is napiform. Clear, right? So you just see the question and find out what type of root. Then the second question is, so fusiform, example we saw radish, and napiform as beetroot, and conical carrot. Then tuberous roots, actually they will have no definite shape, and tuberous we saw both in the case of tap. All these are modifications of the taproot system, and they are used as the food storage. So in the case of tuberous, we saw both under taproot system modification and also under adventitious root system modification. Okay, it's clear, right? Then the next question is, the roots that have swelling at regular intervals are called nodulose, fasciculated, moniliform, and tuberous roots. Nodulous roots, fasciculated roots, moniliform roots, and tuberous roots. The question is, the roots that have swelling at regular intervals. Oh, actually, it is not fasciculated. It is moniliform. So what is the difference between fasciculated and moniliform? The case of fasciculated, it will be swollen throat, but here they asked, they are swollen at regular intervals. So the regular intervals is beaded or moniliform roots. So the correct option is moniliform. Okay, is it clear? So the answer is moniliform, that is the root that have swelling at regular intervals, or moniliform roots. The next question, massive aerial roots present in banyan tree is fibrous root, respiratory root, epiphytic roots, and prop roots. Massive aerial roots present in banyan tree are called prop roots. Yeah, good. Then roots of parasitic plants, cascata, are of, whether they are of climbing roots, prop roots, then mycorrhizal roots or hostoria. The roots of parasitic plant. Cascata, example is cascata, and what type of roots are present in the parasitic plant? Climbing root, yeah, hostoria. Hostoria is, yeah, correct answer, good. The next question, fibrous roots develop in maize from upper nodes, lower nodes, upper internodes, and none of these. Fibrous roots develop in maize from where they will develop, either in upper node or a lower node or upper internode, none of these. The case of maize, the nodes will develop from lower node. Okay. Maize, the nodes will develop from the lower node. Okay. Then next question. Sweet potato is a modification of primary root, leaf, underground root, adventitious root. Sweet potato is a modification of a primary root, or is it a modification of a leaf or an underground root and an adventitious root? So sweet potato under which category we saw? It is actually option D is the correct answer. That is, it is a modified adventitious root. Okay, are you clear? Sweet potato is a modified adventitious root. It's a tuberous root actually. Modified adventitious root. Next, roots are differentiated into adventitious roots. How the roots are, you're saying that it is an adventitious roots on the basis of their function, or B, option B is appearance, or the place of origin and position. I'll repeat the question. Roots are differentiated into adventitious roots by their function. Option C, yeah. Option C is the correct option. That is place of origin. So you are clear, right? Place of origin. Because taproot system, they arise from the radicle, but these adventitious roots, they arise from any other part. So by the place of origin is the correct option. Then the next question. Nodulated roots occurs in Leguminaceae. Option A is Leguminaceae. Option B, Solanaceae. C, Malvaceae, and then Papillanaceae. Yes, Leguminaceae, because if you see the leguminous plants like peas and these, they have these nodules. So nodulated roots are present in the Leguminaceae. Then the next question is, radish is an example for whether it is an fusiform root, napiform root, conical root, or a tuberous root. Radish is a, yeah, option A. It is an example for fusiform root. Then the roots associated with nitrogen fixing bacteria are fusiform roots, napiform roots, nodulated roots, and then conical roots. Option C. Yeah, good. Then the edible part of turnip is whether it is a modified adventitious root or it is a modified taproot, stem, underground stem. the edible part of turnip. In the case of turnip, whether it is a modified adventitious root or modified taproot, stem and underground stem. No, actually it is not option A, it is option B, because turnip where we saw actually it is a modified taproot, that fusiform, napiform, conical roots, all these are the modified taproots. So in this question, what is as the edible part of turnip is a modified taproot. It is not a modified adventitious root. Okay, clear, right? Then which is a modification of the root that does not store food? Napiform root, fusiform root, tuberous root, stilt root. Which is a modification of the root that does not store food? Yes, option B. Other forms, that is napiform, fusiform, and then tuberous are all storage form, but stilt root is for support. So we have to be clear with that also. What are all for the storage and what are the type of roots that are involved in the function, other type of support or respiration, so that you should be clear. Then prop roots of banyan tree are meant for respiration, storage, providing support to big tree all. Yeah, providing support to big tree. So that is the main role of the prop root of banyan tree. Then the next thing is prop roots are, first option is taproot, second option is adventitious roots, secondary root all. So prop roots are taproot, yes, option B, it is an adventitious root. Then stilt roots occur in groundnut, rice, sugarcane, wheat. So stilt root occur in groundnut, rice, sugarcane, and wheat. The correct option is sugarcane. Okay. So I hope you are clear with the thing, right? So under root, so we discussed many questions also. So hope it will be useful for you. And yeah, any doubts? Okay. So we saw in about the different types of roots, that is taproot, fibrous root, and adventitious roots, and about the modified forms of these roots, that is taproots. What are the main functions of these roots? Like apart from absorption of water and nutrients, they help in the storage of food, and also they give support to the plant. And some of the roots also, they synthesize the plant growth regulators. So we also saw about the different regions of the root, like what are the regions, like zone of elongation, zone of meristematic activity, and zone of maturation, and about the role of the root cap, that is how it protects the root. So it's clear, right? So, and on maybe in tomorrow's class, then we'll discuss about the stem, and then about the leaf, and other about the external structures that are present in the angiospermic plant. Okay. Okay then. Okay, thank you.